The trade deadline has come and gone this year in the NBA, and the Eastern Conference was honestly pretty quiet. Besides the Brooklyn Nets completely imploding, no rosters towards the top shook things up. Philly traded away Thibault, who would crater their offense when he was in. Milwaukee acquired Jay Crowder, who will help add depth at the wing, but isn't always the most reliable shooter anymore. And then there's the Boston Celtics, who are currently neck and neck with the Bucks for the #1 seed and might have made the best trade out of all of them. The one that could put this team over the top and lead them back to the NBA Finals. Boston traded away Justin Jackson for the veteran prowess of none other than Mike Muscala. Okay, maybe we're exaggerating here, but hey, don't sleep on the Muscala acquisition. He's currently averaging almost 11 points with him. He just supplies yet another steady hand on the bench that helps fill out what little holes this roster seems to have. But this isn't just a Mike Muscala hype video. We're sure we'll bring him back in points, but there are bigger fish to fry. This is a video to find out the framework for if the Boston Celtics can find themselves in a back-to-back NBA Finals situation. Can Boston get out of the East? Let's get into it. First, let's talk about what this team has accomplished as a whole so far this season. Boston is currently third in the entire league in offensive rating. They're only behind the Nuggets and Kings, and they won't have to worry about them in the East. They also make the second most threes out of any team. There's this weird notion that they're not really a deep shooting team, but that's just not the case. They have an average make rate of just shy of 38%. It's led by Jayson Tatum launching 9 a game, Jalen Brown shooting 7.5, and oh my god, Mike Muscala is third on the team in three-point attempts. What did we tell you? The 31-year-old legend is already doing it out there. So what we're saying is, on the offensive side of the ball, this roster has few weaknesses. And how has their defense been looking? It has the calling card of last year's impossible turnaround halfway through the season. Boston has kept the pressure on teams this entire season and is currently the 4th best defensive rated team. The teams above them are the Cavs, Grizzlies, and Bucks, so they do have some conference competition there, but we'll get to that in a second. Because we need to first break down what their all-star duo has been doing in Massachusetts. Jayson Tatum and Jalen Brown have been unbelievable together this year. It's almost hard to imagine how there was ever talk about if they should break them up last year. The two of them average a combined 57 points, 16 rebounds, and 8 assists. They also, as mentioned earlier, have been lighting it up from 3, which is coupled with their superior mid-range game. When you zoom out on the East, it's hard to find a team you'd rather pick their top 2 over these guys. The 76ers have an MVP level Embiid again this year, but Harden isn't like what he used to be. And if you told us the Bucks, we'd at least listen because of the ridiculousness of Giannis, and Drew Holiday is having a great year as well. But we're talking about 2 forwards that have the ability to do it on both sides of the court when they're locked in. And Brad Stevens has done a fantastic job in the front office at building this out around them two. And Marcus Smart is now fully settled back into being a point guard as he's averaging 7 assists a game. And if Smart's out, don't worry, because Derek White has stepped up this season to help run the offense when they need him to. And both of these guards are nose to the grindstone type defenders that'll give any backcourt trouble in the playoffs. We're looking at you, Garland and Mitchell. Boston's big men have also held steady this year. Al Horford is now 36-year-old, but his IQ of the game has kept him impactful. Grant Williams stands out in the corner, and that's exactly what you want. If Mazzulla sees him step out even a foot outside of those corners, he needs to call a timeout to explain once again that is now his only job. And then you have the slow return of Robert Williams. Williams was a monster during their run last year, and if they can get him even back to like 90% speed by the playoffs, we'd expect that 4th-ranked defense to start climbing. And did you happen to notice how we didn't mention old Muskie when talking about their big men? Not gonna lie, that took a lot of maturity on our part, we must say. Just like Joe Mazzulla has been a more mature and primed first-year head coach than we think anyone could have predicted. He's really found a voice that engages with the team and motivates them to play hard no matter the game. He's basically made the entire city forget about the Ime Udoka situation. But if he wanted them to remember, he'd probably make a Quizlet about it. Alright, let's zoom back out again. Who is Boston's main competitor for the Eastern Conference Championship? The obvious pick is Milwaukee, of course. Giannis could win his 3rd MVP and is playing with a team that is hungry for a run after last year's exit to Boston. Giannis is a tough matchup for almost anybody, but they might be able to stop him by committee just like last year. Drew's probably going to hound Brown all game long, which would leave Middleton and Giannis to combat Tatum. That could very well be the tightest series in the playoffs this year. But because of their overall depth in shooting, we give Boston the slightest of edges in that series. The other two semi-big names in the East are Philly and Cleveland, but the 76ers are not going to have an answer for stopping Tatum and Brown through 7 games. Embiid is fantastic, but he has Harden and Doc Rivers, 2 guys with big ol' stinkers of playoff resumes. That may be anecdotal, but if you watch basketball, it makes sense. Cleveland is a really interesting team, though. Their offensive firepower with Mitchell and Garland mixed with defensive towers in Mobley and Allen could be a grind of a matchup for any team. What it'll come down to for the Cavs is if Mobley can take some sort of next step offensively, and if Garland and Mitchell can at least defend the perimeter decently in the postseason. Overall, Boston has been looking really good, and we think we'll win the East once again this year. And if you don't believe us, we don't care. We believe in the higher power of Mike Muscala. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one.